Hello and welcome to the Rabblecast. My name is Erik Hernandez.
I'm Doug.
And you might hear the train horn in the background. I can't help that. It's weird. I don't know what's going on, but I can hear it this time. I normally don't. And you are listening to episode number 638. Letting everybody know who's been asking, we got a new memory card. Hopefully the right issues have been solved. I will be able to tell you next episode once I do the playback of this one. But on this episode, we talk about some old fan favorites and something new. We talk about The Crow, which is coming up on 30 years in May 13th, as we talk about on the episode. Thanks to Doug for refreshing my memory, because I completely blanked. We also talk about the both commentary tracks, not just for The Crow, but also for the first Blade movie that we did a while back. It's got to be like 10 years, right? 5 or 10 years we did those? Somewhere between, though?
What, the commentary tracks?
Yeah, I know we never pinned it down during the episode, but it's...
I definitely remember, I don't remember The Crow, but I'm pretty damn sure we did the Blade one in late summer 2018.
Yeah, because you were still in Jersey when we were doing those.
Yeah, I remember that was in the basement. Yeah.
So, I think the Blade one might have been more recent, because I remember I was on a trip out of town for training for the job that I was at. And I was at the hotel, and I was refreshing my memory on Blade so that I could watch it with you when I got back.
Mm-hmm.
And that had to have been like 5 or 6 years ago.
That's about right.
Okay, so we'll go from there. Talk about Crow, we talk about Blade, and we also talk about Girls. More particularly, the comic book from Image Comics and the Luna Brothers, back from 05 and 07. 24 issues, fantastic story. I won't talk about it any further. We talk about it on the episode itself, so we'll get to that. We are brought to you by InsidePulse.com. You can find us under various different sections: games, comic books, celebrities, movies, TV, wrestling. Check us out. We're there. You can also find the show over at Rabblecast.libsyn.com, where the show is always directly uploaded to. Check us out on YouTube at Rabblecast. Check out the Rabblecast Facebook fan page. Send us a tweet at Rabblecast, because I don't know what else to call it. If you look it up online, it's still twitter.com, even though it's called X. So enjoy that one.
Really, people would call it X or cops.
That's a good point. I never put it that way. You can also send us an email, rabblecast@gmail.com. Did you listen to our commentary tracks for The Crow and Blade? If you did you enjoy them? Let us know. Do you want us to do more? Doug and I opened up the discussion tonight, so who knows? Maybe we'll figure something out. Hey, maybe the Fast and Furious movies. The first one.
Yeah, there we go. That might be a hot ticket.
Okay, we can go from there.
We got plenty of material.
Yes, we do. And who knows how many more with the spinoffs. I think that's about it. You have anything else to add, sir?
I got nothing.
All right. Well, let's get into it. Enjoy the show. And we're off.
All right.
Off the rails. Let's start it out with some fun.
All right.
How are you, sir? How you been?
Everything's going okay, but I still somehow feel remarkably awful. But so about normal.
Okay. Can you define awful?
Yeah, the impending sense of doom, dread, and awfulness, and just general crapola. But I've been feeling like this pretty consistently for several years now, so it's like, yeah, about normal.
Gotcha. Did you get affected by the rainstorm yesterday?
Yeah, we got about, I think, 3 or 4 inches of rain here. It's pretty wild.
We got about 3 inches, I believe, in this area as well. A lot of road closures. We have, for anybody who doesn't know, our town has floodgates, which after the 1999 Hurricane Floyd, they thought would be a good idea to finally use and put into place and hope to alleviate any flooding that happens in this area. But whenever they close the floodgates, that just means the water finds somewhere else to go, so it goes down to the next town over.
Basically, yes.
It's like, oh, was not completely well thought out. But whatever the case, Floyd was an interesting one because we're at a higher elevation where we are in town.
Mm-hmm.
But the town itself, Bound Brook, you can look it up online. There was a bunch of news stories and everything else. The downtown area, the water got so high as it got to the second floor in certain parts of the town.
Oh.
Yeah, so there's entire houses that were half submerged. There's always the, I don't know if it's entirely true or if it's like an urban legend, but it was one of those stories that was passed around quite a bit. When you got further downtown, there's another part of town that, you go a little bit deeper in towards where the canal is. And there was somebody who worked as a nurse at a hospital, and they were doing like the late shift. So when they came home, this was back, I believe it was September of 1999. I remember because it was close to the Sega Dreamcast launch. And
oh, wow.
That was September 9th, 1999 that launched. It was right around that time frame. So this individual who was a nurse came home late night while the storm was just, kicking up, essentially. They were renting, or they lived in the upper part of the house. It was a 2-floor house, and they lived up in the attic. They had like a little makeshift room. They go to bed. Everything seems normal. Everything's fine. They wake up. When they go to sit up and go to stand, they put their feet in water.
Oh, man.
And they're like, what the fuck? And they actually had to be rescued by ripping the roof apart so they can make an opening, and they had to rescue them by boat.
That's wild.
Again, I don't know if it's true. It was a story that was passed around quite a bit. I repeat it because it sounds interesting. But if you look up the news footage and the photo footage or photo archives, you see motorboats, like small boats, just going through town. And as they pass, you can see where the street sign is supposed to be. It's like just at water level, essentially. So what had happened was the water had gotten so high in certain areas that they were afraid that people were going to start dying due to electrocution because the power was still on. So to alleviate that, they decided they were going to cut the power to the town. When they did that, our sub pump in the basement stopped working.
Oh boy!
So at 2 a.m, where does all that water go when the ground is oversaturated? It's gonna find the cracks and the openings, and it's just gonna go down into the basements. At the time, our basement was kind of fixed up a little bit, but at like 1 or 2 a.m, it became like a 8-person bucket brigade trying to get the water out. And I looked at everybody and said, "Wait a minute, what are we doing? We're just tossing the water in the backyard." Yeah, but that doesn't make sense. Where do you think the water's gonna go when it goes through the ground? We're not going to worry about that right now. It's like, fuck. So when they were talking about the rain coming and how many inches we were getting and how bad it was going to be and everything else, I was like, oh, this is not going to be good. Thankfully, I don't know if it's due to the floodgates. I don't know if it was any other number of precautions that were taken, but it wasn't as bad. The basement did get wet a little bit, but there's cracks in the foundation somewhere. I'm sure of it. After all the heat and cold and thawing, and the foundation's going to crack. It's concrete. What do you expect? So
it is technically porous material. It's just very tiny pores.
Exactly. So, and water will find any opening it can. Doesn't matter. That's what watertight is an actual thing. And if your basement's not watertight, if it's not sealed, quote unquote, that some of the surfaces do out there, then you're going to have problems. And we've occasionally had them. But thankfully, even though we only got about 3 inches, I can't remember how many inches fell during Hurricane Floyd, but it was quite a bit. And there have been other storms that have come through that have also caused havoc as well. But we have not had a repeat that badly, thankfully. So, yeah, that's that's probably the most excitement we've had in the past few days. The following day, I stayed home from work. The schools, initially for the kids, they're like, oh, it's a 2-hour delay. We're going to do this preemptively the night before. That way there's no problem. Everybody has time to get to where they have to get to. But because the floodgates were closed in one area, out of nowhere we get an alert saying, school's closed for the day. Make the appropriate changes and pickups that you need. I'm like, wow, okay, that's going to screw a lot of people over. But again, we live in a town that gets flooded quite a bit. So yeah, it makes sense that they would take that precaution and just try to be on the safer end of things. There was a Harley Davidson dealer that was down in on Main Street in Boundbrook, and unfortunately, that sucker caught fire during the storm, and nobody could put it out. Like as the waters were starting to go up, that building just went up, and there was always rumors like, "Oh, was it done for the insurance and everything else?" It's usually the story when any fire starts, but it's long since been replaced, and I think now there's like a Dunkin' Donuts and a Baskin Robbins combo in there. So,
Oh, okay. I
yeah,
think I know what it is. Yeah.
yeah, it's right across the street from the big municipal parking lot, which a lot of people use for the train station. So,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
but again, anytime they say a big rainstorm's coming through, and they're like, "Oh, get ready because there might be flooding, flash flooding, the canal's gonna crest," and all this, I'm like, "Ooh, takes me back to '99," which I say that now. Oh God, that's what 25 years ago, coming up on it.
Yeah, 1999 was 25 years ago.
God damn. Yeah, we're old.
Yeah, this shit happens, man. Yeah.
So, uh, we'll see what happens. Anything interesting on your radar come up recently, or
Um,
stories, events, anything? I saw Guar's coming back to Jersey.
really?
Yeah, apparently the Starland Ballroom.
Cool. I don't know. Gore has passed me by at this point.
Yeah, without Odorous, it's a little weird.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool that they're keeping on, and it's also hilarious that the guy who was the original Beefcake the Mighty is now the singer. Um, so I always got a kick out of that. But yeah, I mean, everybody got so caught up with the theatrics. I mean, people forget, Brocky was actually a really good singer because there's some stuff that, you could tell the new guy, well, I can't really call him new. He's been doing it for Christ almighty. He's been doing it for almost 90. Jesus Christ, actually, March will be the 10th anniversary of Dave Brocky's death.
Wow, really? I remember we covered it
Yeah,
on here one time.
Yeah, it was March of 2014 when he died.
Whew.
Wow, ooh, holy shit. Um,
Gut punch one, gut punch two.
well, you know what May is as well, May 13th, right?
I'm blanking off the top of my head. What is May 13th?
May 13th will be the 30th anniversary of the opening of The Crow.
You're correct. Yes. Holy shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it was Friday, May 13th it opened.
Hmm. You know what? I should probably re-release the commentary track that we made.
We did do a commentary track, didn't we?
We did. We did.
Holy
that
shit,
one for
that.
the Crow. I posted up in one of the groups I was on Facebook, and I got a pretty good reaction out of it. So a lot of people liked it. I should definitely put that one up again. I don't like the off-year anniversaries, like 29 years. Yeah, okay. See me next year. But 30th, yeah, dude, that's fuck.
Yeah, because I want to say we did that, and I remember, I think for the 20th anniversary of Blade, we did a commentary track for that one as well, right?
Yes, we did.
Okay, that I remember.
We never fully decided if we were going to do a commentary track for the other movies, though. For Blade, what was the subtitle for Blade 2? Did it have one?
I don't think so.
I know Blade 2, and then Blade Trinity. And I think we agreed that we were going to...
one.
Was there?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there was. It was definitely not Wesley Snipes.
You're thinking of the Spike TV series with Sticky Fingers.
Really?
There was one, yes.
Huh.
That one was unfortunate, and not because of Sticky Fingers. I think he actually did a pretty good job as Blade, but they made the story more about the human companion that was helping him out, trying to infiltrate the vampire group or gang that he was trying to hunt down. So Blade was more of like a background character that lurked in the shadows. It was just like, yeah, if I want to see Blade, give me Blade. Don't give me all the other characters. So
yeah, that's kind of oh yeah, you're right. I could have sworn that was a straight to video movie. Okay.
that was one of the gets for Spike TV early on, because they were trying to stand out and do TV for men and everything else. And they're like, oh, Blade, everybody loves Blade. Let's get somebody to play Blade. And I can't remember the name of the woman who played the human companion or human partner. But I don't think you didn't have Whistler, I don't think, anymore. So that was done away with as per the movies. And I can't remember who played. Like I can only remember Sticky Fingers. That was the only thing, because when I first heard that a Wu-Tang Clan member, or not Wu-Tang, excuse me,
Onyx.
Thank you, Onyx was going to be playing Blade. I was like, holy shit, really? This is different. It did, like I said, it did okay. It didn't go crazy, but I guess I got some ratings and some eyeballs for Spike.
Let's see, the recurring, or the characters on here are Joe Wagner as Krista Starr. I don't know who that is. And they don't give anything else. And then Nelson Lee as Shen, who's Blade's weaponsmith and electronics expert, who hacks computer networks for information on vampires and their business. He makes Blade serum for him and can speak and read the vampire language. Blade is helping him track down the vampires who killed his sister.
What race was this character? Does it show?
If it says Shen, that sounds vaguely Asian to me.
Okay. No, the reason I ask is because if everybody remembers, if you go back to watch the first Blade movie, when Blade takes down the vampires, or when he takes down the human familiars, he usually robs them. Mm-hmm. He takes their watches, he takes their wallet, whatever like valuables they have on them. And the one character has like, oh, now you're gonna rob them, and he goes, this isn't exactly the March of Dimes. And he goes to the one guy in like this little bodega, and the one guy is making, or at least gives them the ingredients to make the serum, and then he gives the guys like all the valuables, like watches, whatever. I guess he pawns them off in payment. But that character was never expounded upon, never returned. You're like, oh, okay, this is another character in Blade's circle. He's got a small circle, Whistler being one of them. This guy who gives him all the herbs and medicines to make his serum, and then the doctor he meets. But they never go back to that guy in the shop. I'm like, come on, man, that was a cool little like footnote that Blade doesn't have a job. He doesn't have a steady income. How does he afford all these things? Oh, he robs the bad guys. Let's keep playing with that a little bit. Yes, he's a little bit of a creep himself, but they never returned to that. And I'm sure Wesley Snipes was just like, no, I can afford everything. I'm a vampire.
That guy who plays Shen, the bladesmith or the weaponsmith and all that, he's played by Nelson Lee, who is a Taiwanese American actor. So I'm assuming that's the guy you're thinking of.
In the movie, I believe it was another black guy. And I can't remember. Again, they didn't give him really a name or anything. But if that was the same character, quote unquote, because let's face it, from each iteration, the nationalities can change. Nobody says they can't. But that, who knows? Maybe they like rolled it into one. Since you didn't have Whistler, they're like, oh, we'll just make you this guy instead. So that was always fun. Would you want to do Blade 2 and 3?
No, I never liked them, to be honest with you. I remember I watched Blade 2. Blade 2 took me multiple sittings to get through, because there's something about that movie that just irked me, but I don't remember what. Yeah, because that one came out about 2002-ish, I think. And I remember not going to the theater for it. A bunch of my friends were going. I had something else I had to take care of. I watched it on video, and I just did not give a shit. There was something about it that just I found irritating. And the third one was a little bit too, like, goofy for me.
The third one was a mess from the get-go. You could even hear Patton Oswalt's behind the scenes telling about it, because he was actually in it. He was part of the new group that was helping him with weapons and tech and information and all that stuff. They were supposed to be part of the Night Stalkers, which was a small group in the Marvel Comics. They just made a different version of them for the movie. The second one is probably not my favorite, but it's very close to the first one, only because it's Guillermo del Toro directing. Mm-hmm. You've got the same guy who played the bad guy in Hellboy 2, The Golden Army, was also the bad guy in Blade 2. I can't remember his name either, but he was like the hybrid vampire that his jaw opens up at the bottom and they had like weird fangs and everything else. You had Norman Reedus, who was kind of like a replacement for Whistler, even though they brought Whistler back.
Yes.
After, spoilers, after killing him off in the first one. And again, we're talking about a movie that's how old now?
22.
So there you go. If you haven't seen it, I'm sorry. And then you also had Ron Perlman as part of the Blood Pack.
Yes.
So right there for me, that's a lot of stuff going on. I'm like, I can't not like it. There's so many like little things that made it tick for me that I was like, okay, this is fun. And Wesley Snipes was still having fun with the whole idea. It wasn't until the third one where apparently he just stopped talking to the director, actually believed he was Blade, and was kind of like going like method for a while. Just like, oh, come on, stop it. But this is also Wesley Snipes pre-tax evasion, pre-guilty, pre-getting locked up.
Yeah, you know, yeah.
So,
and let's be honest here, Blade 3 was pretty much what's his face's that was his audition tape because he really wanted to be Deadpool.
Oh, for Ryan Reynolds, yes.
Yeah, Ryan Reynolds. There we go. Yeah.
Yeah, he played Hannibal King, part of the Night Stalkers again. Again, did a fantastic job. Triple H was one of the vampire thugs.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
Parker Posey was essentially the leader of that gang. And they had the Pomeranian vampire dog. What was the line that Ryan Reynolds says to Parker Posey? I think he calls her a thunder cunt.
Horse humping thunder cunt, I believe is the line.
You know they had more takes. You know they went over and over again. Like just let him say whatever he's gonna say. He's having fun. He's got a good physique. Let's just have fun with this. And I was like, wow, okay, this yeah. But you're right. No, he was absolutely auditioning for Deadpool the entire time. There was no way he wasn't. Yeah. So it was just a matter of years before he finally got a chance to do it in Wolverine Origins, and then from there, the Deadpool movie proper itself. So
yep.
But going back to the Crow movies, I think we've agreed that we're not going to do any commentary for the follow-up movies for those, because City of Angels was fun, and we both appreciate it for certain things as well. But after that, just the quality of the movies just dwindled and downward spiral.
The only good thing after the first Crow movie is some of the novelizations are not terrible. And I think that's kind of being charitable.
I think we're talking about Lazarus Heart again.
Yeah, Lazarus Heart, which I reread part of that a couple of years ago, and I was like, wow, I still really like this because it's way more horror elements. And I appreciate the fact for part of it, like, he takes a damage so badly that part of his head gets blown off, and he's not dying from it, but the healing factor is not kicking in. So at one point he just puts on like a bondage hood and basically was like, well, that'll kind of hold my head together as best as possible. Now I got to go get revenge because I'm running low on time.
It always made me wonder in that one part that you just mentioned, if that was a call out or, a shout out to the original comic. Because, all right, so in the movie, Shelley and Erik get taken out in their apartment in Detroit.
Correct.
In the comic, Eric's not a musician. He's a construction worker. So he's a day laborer. And he and Shelley were driving down the road. I think they were like trying to go on a quasi vacation, just a getaway kind of thing. Cause they're out somewhere in the open area outside the city itself.
Yeah. They're out in the country.
So they get,
and the car breaks down.
Yeah. And they get caught by T-Bird and the gang. What was that? I don't know.
I don't know. That was on your side.
Yes, mine. It was. But they get caught by T-Bird and the gang, and I believe it's Funboy who just blasts Draven in the back of the head, and his head just splits open, which is why when you see him in the comic, he's got that scar that comes down his head across the bridge of his nose and over his cheek.
Yes.
So I always thought that part in Lazarus Heart was a callback to that in a way, because they never... If you watch the Brandon Lee movie, you will catch very, very subtle makeup details. They actually include the scar in his face.
Mm-hmm.
And they also include it can only be seen in certain shots and in certain stills. He actually ties the empty bullet casings in his hair.
I never caught that.
Yeah,
Really?
oh yeah, it's there. If I can find the shots for you, I'll send them over to you. Because when I read the book, I was like, oh, this is so cool. I can't wait for to see it in the movies. Then when I saw the movie and they like omitted certain things, which happens, it's an adaptation. It's not a straight retelling. Just face it. But I was like, oh, these are cool little details that I wish were still there because they made sense. Getting his head blown open so that scar is there. Getting the bullet casings after he takes everybody down. He also, like, even though he has the healing factor, he still, like, tries to, like, carve himself up every time he takes somebody down. Because there's the one scene in the book where he takes out Funboy. Again, spoiler for anybody who hasn't read it. But he takes out Funboy, but before he does, he allows Funboy one more high. So Funboy's sitting there with heroin just before he finally kicks it. Just having one more trip. And Draven himself grabs it and tries some himself. Just to realize that the healing factor is pretty much won't let him feel a damn thing. So I'm like, ooh, these are little things that were kind of cool. But it's played differently in the movie. It's in the bedroom. His hand gets blown open with a hole he looks through. He tells the Jesus joke. And then everything else plays out from there. So, I don't know. The first one is just still amazing. So, even just talking about it right now, I really wish I had my old copy. I lent it out to somebody a long time ago. I never got it back, bastards.
Really? Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. It was, the Miramax Dimension collection, whatever it was. It had like the gold bar up top. It was like
2-disc set.
Yes, exactly. You know exactly what I'm talking about. The one with the not commentary, but the interview with James Obar when he tells the story about how he came up with the idea for the character and everything.
And he's in his basement, basically sketching and occasionally like yelling at whoever's upstairs.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, that's the same copy I have.
Great DVD. I loved it. I lent it out to. I really can't even call them a friend. They were an acquaintance from the coffee house days, and I was thinking, oh, sure, they'll give them back because they're a trustworthy person. Nope, they're not even in the same state anymore. And the last time I reached out to them, ghosted. Like, I'm not getting that one back. I should probably rebuy it one day. So I'm surprised I haven't. I don't know what's wrong with me.
You should totally pick up the Blu-ray and let me know how it looks because I was thinking about upgrading.
Ooh, that's not a bad idea. I think I'm gonna do some shopping tonight. But no, it's those two are fun. Blade and the Crow. I mean, those are. It's hard to believe that it's been so long. Jesus Christ. But the commentary track I definitely have to re-release. I think I posted it up again one other time besides putting it in the link into groups. And I think it played pretty well from what I can remember off the top of my head. But now, wait, we've been on Blog Talk. No, not Blog Talk. Libsyn for a while. I should go back and try to find the stats for that one and see how it did. Engage from there. I normally don't look at the stats, so I don't want to be let down when I go back and it's not what I expect it to be. But who knows? We'll see what happens. I like that idea. If there's any other movie commentary tracks you want to do, or if you just want to get together, watch a film, and just put it on. I don't know what you would. Not on tape, on memory card. Whenever you want to lay down a track, Doug.
Yeah, I'll break out my reel-to-reel. Yeah.
There you go.
No, we should. It's been so long. I know we did Crow or we did Blade in 2018. I cannot remember when we did the Crow for the life of me. Geez, I cannot remember when we did it. I can't remember anything.
I want to say it was probably around when it was the 20th anniversary.
Okay, so that would have been we were still in the old format of the show where it was all wrestling all the time because we didn't change over until 2015.
You're right. So, okay, so that would have been so this year is the 30th anniversary.
Correct.
2014 would have been the 20th. Fuck, when did we do it? I thought we did it like on a what you call it, like a milestone year, like a 20 or 25. Maybe I was wrong.
No, I'm not even 100% sure where we recorded that one.
That one was when you were in Manville.
Okay, it was in the basement.
Yes.
Okay, because I definitely remember recording Blade there, but I cannot remember recording The Crow for the life of me.
Holy shit, you're right. Huh. We're gonna have to look this one up a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah, I'm very curious about that one. Whatchamacallit. But no, I would totally be down for doing another commentary track. I'm just not exactly sure what we should do a commentary track for. I think that would be the hardest part of figuring out like what movie to do. Yeah, I'm not even sure at this point.
Oppenheimer. That's one we have to break up into 2 episodes just to be safe.
Yeah, that's going to be a hell of a lot right there.
Yeah, we got to find something that we both enjoy, something that we both, can get behind. But well, it's kind of hard to say because Blade was fun, but I mean, we both have a love for The Crow.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? Maybe when they do the next one with
next
Skarsgård,
what?
The Crow.
I hate to say it, but I'll believe that one. They've started and stopped with the next iteration of The Crow so many damn times. Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it, or when I actually read that's like, yes, they are literally like in production. That's when I'll be like, yeah, that's good to go.
Look, if they make it, because supposedly they had started production at one point. IMDb had a lot of casting and everything else, but I know IMDb also puts a lot of stuff up early sometimes because it goes by a lot of the hearsay behind the scenes. But I'm hoping it gets made, only because I'm hoping that James Obar gets a fat paycheck for it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing I want to see out of it. If it's good, fantastic. That means more people are going to see it. Hopefully there's another great soundtrack that comes out of it. But so long as Obar gets his due for it, because otherwise it's just been like used and misused over and over again by Miramax, and it just has not been a great franchise. Like, to try to revive it, to try to bring it back to somewhat of the potential of the first one. And again, a lot of people say the first one is because of what happened to Brandon Lee and all the other mishaps that happened on set and the accidents and all that crazy stuff. The one book, and I can't remember the name of the woman who wrote it, something Bass or Bass, I can't remember. She details all the happenings that happened on set and the different production problems, and Edward Pressman having certain responsibilities or rights, whatever the case was, and the writers were being shifted around, and Alex Proyas was, wanting to make a certain type of movie, and they were like hamstringing him at one point. All the different things like that. The people who got electrocuted on set because a weird mishap when they were rigging some of the sets up. Obviously, the bullet, or not the bullet, the wadding that was used for the fake gun, and when they were trying to make the dummy round. Because for anybody who doesn't know the mishap that happened with Brandon Lee, the accident that tragically ended his life very, very early, was that they took, and this is something that's a big no-no apparently when it comes to movie sets, they used real ammunition to make the fake ammunition, which is something apparently you don't do. And because they wanted to have a larger effect when they actually got a shot of the gun barrel after it shoots around, but they wanted a large flash and the big plume of smoke that comes out, they wanted to be very impactful. That meant they had to use a larger amount of wadding to get that. That unfortunately created a weird collection of debris in the gun that when they went to go shoot the dummy round, ejected that wadding out, and it's what hit Brandon Lee in the abdomen. And then everybody thought he was acting initially when he went down, but when they called cut and he wouldn't break scene, they're like, oh, he's going method. No. He's dying in front of you. Like, let's get him to the hospital. And unfortunately, it got lodged so far into his abdomen near his spine that by the time they got him help, it was just like ridiculously too late and tragic in all shapes and forms, because they were near the end of filming. They thought they can do all these other things. The one scene I remember that they wanted to film, Brandon Lee and the production, the insurance company wouldn't sign off on it. And that was when Skank is coming at him in that little import car. He was supposed to jump over the car. So imagine Brandon Lee standing there as Skank is speeding towards him. He was going to jump Skank's going to pretty much zoom under him and then go off the pier or crash into something. The insurance company said, no fucking way, we're not playing that. You can die. Ironic. But Brandon Lee actually practiced the stunt. Not that he used an actual car to go through him, but he had like somebody zoom past him nearby, and then he would time the jump. And apparently, he had it. Like, he could do the jump, and he could make the timing work.
Wow.
So they're like, we're going to do this. As soon as we finish principal photography, we'll come back for reshoots. We're going to film that scene off hours. It's going to be on our dime. We'll include it in the film. It's going to look sick. Never got done. My favorite story out of the production was the guy who played Tintin.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't remember the name of the gentleman off the top of my head, but he also played Lord Nikon in Hackers.
Yes.
He had dreads, extensions put into his hair for the look for Tintin. And rather than getting them put in and then taking them out, getting them in, putting them, taking them out, he said, screw it, just leave them in for the length of production and I'll work with it. I'll live with it. It got to the point where they would go to bars when they were done filming for the night or for the week, whatever the case was. And so many people would comment on his hair. And initially he was like, oh, they're extensions. You know, I'm doing a movie. But he got asked and commented so often, he said, yeah, you like it? I grew it out. It's great, isn't it? Yeah. He's like, screw this. Leave me alone. So he just had fun with it. No big deal on that one.
Oh, and that was Lawrence Mason.
Thank you. I can never remember his name. I just remember him as Tintin and Lord Nikon. I mean, they're great roles, both of them. But I think I definitely saw him as Tintin first. And then when I saw Hackers, I'm like, it's fucking Lord Nikon. No, it's Tintin. He's a bastard. But it's a character he plays. So, all right. I don't know if you remember, I think, was it last year? Where Jimmy came back to town for a little bit?
Yeah, it was last May.
Thank you. He gave me his comic book collection, essentially.
Okay.
And I was going through and I'm bagging and boarding stuff because he's a heathen and hasn't taken care of it. Love you, Jimmy.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. But no, there's a bunch of things. They had bags or whatever, but I'm just trying to like sift through, see, what I'm going to give away or what I'm holding on to, whatever the case is. I have a friend who runs a comic book shop, so I'm just going to put it to good use over there, let other people enjoy it and see what happens. But I came across a comic book from Image Comics. And I don't know if you've ever heard of this one, or if you've ever read it. It's called Girls.
Never heard of it.
From, let's see, who's this from here? Jonathan and Joshua Luna, the Luna brothers, they're referred to as. Came out in, first issue was in 05, May 05, and the last issue was in April of 07. It ran for 24 issues, so 2 years. No annuals. No, compilation things, whatever the case was. No offshoot stories, no spin-offs. This was a straight story going from issue 1 to issue 24. As I'm going through Jimmy's collection, I come across issue 1. And it's like, okay, let me check this out. I open it up, and one of the first things you see is they give you this little map of the town that you're about to read about. It's a town called Pennystown. It's a small place. Okay. By looking at the map, you see it's spread out in like this wooded area, but there's like a convenience store, the bar, the diner. A bunch of people have houses in little areas and like farmland and stuff like that. It's a very quaint little town, like out in the middle of nowhere. I don't think they actually ever referred to what state it was in the book. I mention all this because the way the story unfolds, it's very... You wouldn't expect it because I had no clue what I was getting into. Let me see if I can just read the summary here. It's a little bit easier. Tells the story of the people of Pennystown, a community of 63 who are cut off from the rest of the world and attacked by a group of naked, flesh-eating, egg-laying women, as well as other bizarre dangers. So the story starts off with this kid named Ethan. He works at the local mini mart or convenience store, whatever the case is. He's going through a breakup with his girlfriend. It's been about 6 months. Some new girl comes into town. She's visiting her family. And he thinks, oh, maybe this might be, a chance to, bounce back from being with the other girl. Tries to hit on her a little bit and invites her out to the bar. It doesn't go so well. He gets a little defeated. He's upset. Whatever. Everybody goes to the bar because it's a small town again, so everybody knows everybody. These 63 people all are like in each other's business. While Ethan's out with his friend, he gets into an argument with one of the locals. She's trying to cheer him up. Again, he thinks she's coming on to him because apparently she's the town whore. Not the case. She was just trying to be friendly. This whole thing erupts where suddenly everybody starts yelling at him and he gets upset. And finally he just starts going off on everybody. They kick him out of the bar. When they kick him out of the bar, it's raining. He's getting wet. He gets pissed off. He finally just shouts. When he shouts, there's a loud boom that goes off. So loud that it breaks the windows and windshields of cars, any windows of buildings. Everything just gets blown out. And people first thought, like, oh shit, like this guy had like superpowers or something? What the fuck just happened? Nobody knows what's going on. But as that happens, as the boom goes off, it stops raining. He leaves. He's dejected. He's upset with everybody. His girlfriend, apparently, or actually his ex-girlfriend at this point, is working the same bar he was just visiting. So she got to see everything that just blew apart. As he's driving home on this dark road, he finds a naked woman running across the road. So he stops. Doesn't know what to say or do. She pretty much falls into his arms and he's freaking out. Long hair, dark hair, naked woman. Apparently the way she's portrayed is like she's very beautiful. So he goes, all right, get in my car. I'll take you home and we'll get you some clothes. We'll get you cleaned up, whatever the case is, and you can tell me what's going on. Doesn't say a word to him. Doesn't speak to him. He doesn't know what's happening. Gets back to his place. He's got neighbors, so everybody's asking what's going on. He ignores everybody. He takes her home and gets her cleaned up, gets her a change of clothes. But as they're trying to talk, she's not really forthcoming with information. He gives her like some leftover wings, whatever the case is, and then one thing leads to another. They end up sleeping together. The following morning, he goes, all right, this is kind of weird. The girl ends up in the bathroom. She's making some sounds. She's like, oh, maybe it was the wings. I'm sorry. Just tell you what, chill out here. I'll be back. I'm going to go get some help. He goes to the local police station, only to find that his ex-girlfriend is hanging out with the, I guess is the chief or captain. I don't know. I don't know if they ever mentioned the title he had, but he's like the one cop in town essentially. And they have this back and forth, and at first, like, there's some animosity between the Ethan and the cop. His ex-girlfriend's there, this whole thing. Finally, he goes, you know what? Look, I came here for help. So come back to my place. I need to show you something because I don't know what to do. Okay, I came across this weird girl. She's naked. I just don't know. My hands are full. I don't know what's going on. Just help me out. They go back to his place, only to find that now the girl's still in the bathroom, but there are a bunch of eggs in the bathroom of varying sizes. And they find that as time goes through, that the eggs start hatching. And when they hatch, they are full-grown clones or copies of this girl. So like, what the fuck's going on? Then, when they see his ex-girlfriend, they freak. And they go after her. So now they're trying to fight them off. And they don't know what's going on. They hide in a closet. His neighbors are hearing all the racket. They're wondering what's happening. They're like, oh, Ethan's in there. He was an asshole last night at the bar. Oh, but such and such, the one cop's in there with him, so maybe he's getting straightened out. Suddenly, those naked girls come out. And when they see another woman, they go to attack that other woman. It becomes this weird story of like, what the fuck is happening? Where do these girls come from? There's never really a good explanation for it. They attack other women. They only exist to sleep with other men. There is a twist at one point in the storyline, for anybody, spoilers if you ever want to read this book, where when at one point the community, what's left of it, is holed up in a house. They're like, oh, we need supplies. We need to send somebody out. One of the guys goes, I'll go. Like, no, you can't go. You'll end up sleeping with one of them and you'll create more. No, we can't let that happen. He goes, I'll go. I'm gay. They won't touch me. Like, oh, okay. Becomes a different story. But later in the story, like probably like the last quarter of the books, that same character at one point is outside when there's another grouping of women. And as he walks past them, suddenly they start sniffing the air. And I don't know if it's hormones or pheromones, whatever the case is, they could smell that he's not straight. So they not only beat the fuck out of him, but they rip him apart and eat him.
Holy Christ.
So when they find the body, it's like half eaten. Like you see like the ribs sticking out, the face is like partially skull and flesh just ripped off. I'm like, who the fuck made this book? This is pretty fucking cool. It's essentially a zombie story, but the zombies are hot girls that want to sleep with you, and they replicate themselves that way. The other big thing is when they try to escape the town to go get help, they find there's a huge dome that is now covering the entire town. That big boom that you heard in the beginning of the story, or that you read about, is this dome that apparently fell down and has gone far beneath the ground, that they can't even dig under it. They can see out of the dome, so at one point you see the military has arrived in one of the main roads, and they're like, oh, it's fine, they'll get us out, no problem. When the military tries to penetrate the dome with small arms or large fire or even helicopters shooting projectiles at it, nothing pierces the dome. And the military can't see because on the outside, the dome is reflective. So they're stuck under this dome with these flesh-eating, egg-laying women that all they want to do is sleep with the men. And, what was the other thing? Oh, and all communications are cut off. Phones, radios, TV, internet, if they had it in this weird town, all of that. They can't communicate with anybody. They're just stuck with themselves. So now this community has to try to come together and figure something out. And oh boy, does this community just fucking turn on itself. There are so many disagreements, so many people arguing with one another. At one point, there's this older couple. The wife is just this overbearing wife, always puts down the husband. The husband's like very timid at this point and just like, yes, whatever you say, sweetie. Yes, sweetie. And like, no matter what he does, it's never right, never good enough. Finally, this one guy just says, fuck it. And he leaves. When he leaves, he finds one of the girls. So what does he do? He sleeps with the girl. And he makes more.
Okay.
When they find him, there's a bunch of eggs that are like hatched already, and there's a bunch of other girls. And what does he keep doing? He keeps sleeping with other girls to make more, because at one point, he tries to trap his wife with the girls, knowing full well that they're going to kill her. It's like, wow, this fucking takes some dark turns, man.
Yep.
I say all this because with The Crow or Blade or any other like comic book properties that have been picked for different stories to be made into adaptations, whether it be TV shows or movies, Girls from the Luna Brothers, I think would be an amazing movie.
No, that sounds intriguing. Yeah.
It's a very, very, like, you expect, like, zombies have become so commonplace, and it's the same thing over and over again, this weird virus. They never tell you where the girls came from, by the way. They allude that they might be extraterrestrial in nature, but they never give you a full accounting of it. Nor the dome, by the way. The dome just... There's so many things that are left open and to question that it leaves that mystery. And it makes you go, what about this? And what about that? Oh, I didn't even mention the other big thing that they do in the story. So, when the first girl, the initial girl that Ethan runs across, she's running away from this farm. And this farm has a father and son that are chasing after her with a shotgun. When the girl first landed on their farm, or was discovered on their farm, she goes after the son. And the son's a little slow, or special needs, you want to call him. He's not quite right. And at first, like, he doesn't know what to do, but it's a naked woman in front of him, and he's all freaked out, and they're out in the field. So it's like, think about like corn stalks all over the place, and just naked girl and this little kid. Probably like in his early teens. And he doesn't know what to do, and he's confused. His mother comes out to try to stop whatever's going on. So the girl kills the kid's mom. So obviously the father's angry. Now he grabs the shotgun and they're going to take her out. But they lose her in the woods and in the fields. That's where she comes across Ethan. In the same field where they discovered the girl, now there's this, what can only be described as a large sperm sitting there. So the girls are flesh eating, but they don't devour you entirely. They bring back some of the body, especially the women. They bring it back to this sperm creature or monster or whatever it is. If any of the townsfolk get near it, it uses the tail of the sperm like a whiplash and will rip somebody in half with it.
Oh, okay.
It also can shoot like a weird laser or a beam out of it, which also will just destroy you. But when the naked women bring the defeated or killed other townsfolk to it, the tail like sucks up the person, and you can see they draw it and depict where the body goes through the tail into the center mass of the sperm head, and all of a sudden they just pop like a balloon and blood goes everywhere. And each time this happens, the sperm monster gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's like reaching like a certain mass at one point. But you're like, what the fuck is all this? I read the first few issues that I found in Jimmy's long boxes that he gave me. I was immediately just like captivated. I'm like, all right, this is a weird take on this whole story. I'm intrigued. So I went further and further. I couldn't find the other issues. I still have to go through Jimmy's books to figure out what else is in there. But I found that it was on Comixology, the comic book reading app, if you had a membership to it. But that's owned by Amazon. So Amazon did away with the Comixology app recently, I think as recent as of December. And they merged it with their Kindle app. So long as you had a login for Comixology, you can log into Kindle now and still read. One of the things I did during holiday break, I said, screw it, I'm just going to read all 24 issues online. So before going to bed, I would just sit there, scroll through my phone, and read this panel by panel. It was done like in a nice cinematic fashion, so you can just follow the story as you go through. And I was enjoying it. I was like, holy shit, man! Like, there's a lot of stuff going on here. One of my favorite parts is when I think Taylor was the name of the ex-girlfriend for Ethan. At one point, it comes out that he slept with the girl. So they all, like, a lot of people are just blaming him. Like, you made this thing. Like, if it wasn't for you, there wouldn't be 12 copies of this girl running around hurting us and killing us. One of the other townsfolk ends up sleeping with more, and more get made here and there. You go from like a handful of naked girls running around the entire town that's encased in this dome to like maybe like hundreds of them. A lot of guys got laid in this book. Let's just say that, because there's a lot of stuff going on. And apparently with each intercourse that was done, the girl would lay up to 12 eggs. So like every hour she would lay another egg, and it was just this whole weird thing. But you find out that Taylor at one point, when they're having the little heart to heart, says, we weren't on a break. We just had an argument. And Ethan looks at her and goes, are you fucking kidding me? We weren't broken up. You didn't talk to me for 6 months. And she goes, no, I just figured you need some time to yourself. For 6 months? So it's like this weird little dynamic with the relationships. I found that amusing, but at the same time, it's like, oh, I can see like what they're going for here. So they just came up with this weird thing of like a woman who lays an egg. Like what would that lead to, and how that would go further? And it just became this whole thing. And as you read through, like they went from a number of people, like what was it, 63 in the town, and I think maybe a quarter survived.
Okay, all right.
I got through by the end of it. I was expecting like it to be continued. They do leave it open-ended, like something else might happen, but it's a self-contained story. These 24 issues in these 2 years, and I never saw it on the racks. I don't remember seeing it in the comic book store back in 05 and 07. Like maybe I came across it, but like just girls. Like it didn't stand out to me if that was the case. A lot of the comic book covers have like scantily clad or hair covering certain parts just to hide the nudity. So maybe that's how they sold the book a little bit, but don't remember it. But now that I've read it, and I'm thinking to myself, I remember the one story of Neil Gaiman, who wrote Sandman for DC Vertigo. When he started Sandman, he says, I know how that's going to start, and I know how it's going to end. I know how many issues I want to run for. And everybody in the industry he told that to laughed at him and told him good luck. And he didn't.
Why did they do that?
He didn't understand it, that the comic book industry is not going to, if you have a good story, they're not going to let you end the story. They're going to milk it for what it's worth. And they kind of did that with Sandman a little bit. They did like spin-offs and little like story compilations. He didn't get a chance to finish Sandman in a lot of time that he expected it to, because a few things changed here and there. The story took different turns. But if I remember correctly, the initial Sandman run, if you're going just for regular issues, not the Dead Boy Detectives or the one witch spinoff, I can't remember which her name was off the top of my head, but there was a number of different characters that spun out of Sandman and lived in the DC Vertigo universe or DC universe. Lucifer was another one that the storyline where he finally just said, screw it, I'm giving up hell, here's the key, I'm out. And now Sandman or Dream is stuck with the ownership of hell and who to give it to. But I'm digressing. Neil Gaiman had expected to run the book for X amount of issues. Sandman, I believe, ran for a total of 75 issues. And that ran a little bit longer than he expected it to. Even then, it's been so praised for its work in transcending what a comic book could normally be, to the point where he won a few different literary awards. And once he won those awards, they rewrote the rules on how you could win the award so that another comic book would not be able to. So he was able to make it what it was. The fans ate it up. He's revisited the characters over and over again. Now there's the Netflix series that came out, which is a pretty good adaptation. It's not a straight retelling. If you want a straight retelling of the story, the closest you're going to get is the audio drama on Audible with James McAvoy as Dream. Neil Gaiman does a bunch of narration. I think Patton Oswalt is one of the... Was it on this one? Or I can't remember if it was the Netflix series. Patton Oswalt is in one of them as Matthew the Raven. I can't remember which iteration of it is. But the Audible audio drama is a very, very close representation of the books. That I think they've done 2 or 3 versions of it so far. And oh boy, I ate them up. They were great while I was at work and I was doing inventory stuff. It's fantastic as you're sitting there just reading part numbers just to listen to these different actors perform the characters. You're like, oh, this is great. I think Kat Dennings played Death. And I'm like, I like this. Why can't we get more of this? So that's all to say that the Luna brothers were very fortunate. Now, granted, I'm talking Gaiman and DC. That's a whole other monster because DC and Warner Brothers being the parent company, they're going to try to milk everything for what it's worth. The Luna brothers on Image Comics, which is a creator-owned label, were able to tell a fantastic story. It's not your typical story, but they pull enough tropes into this that you're like, oh, this is a good, horror, sci-fi kind of crazy journey. That I don't know why I didn't bring it up sooner. Let's put it that way. When I read about it, one of the first things I said to myself, I'm like, oh, maybe Doug will like this. It sounds like it's right up your alley. But like I said, it's not your typical thing. There's no scary monster, nothing that's out there that's following them. I think the most that they come across in the woods at one point, they come across bears, or I should say a bear. And that becomes a whole other issue as well. One of the characters gets chomped on by the bear and you're like, oh shit. So, but they all have to contend with trusting each other. Lines are drawn at one point. Relationships fall apart. Characters die left and right. You just don't expect it when it happens. But you're like, by the end of it, you're just like, wow, this is a really, really crazy, weird story. And all it took was a naked, egg-laying, flesh-eating woman that really doesn't speak, really. She does at one point when he's having like weird like hallucinations or whatever the case is. But otherwise, it's just like this crazy journey. I was like, this should be made into a movie. If somebody hasn't optioned this at the very least, that's sat like in development for a while, that would be sad. Like it one day should be made into something, whether it's an animated feature or a live action. Hell, even nowadays, like with Amazon and Netflix, make it episodic, make it 10 episodes, make it 8 episodes, whatever the case is. The story's there, and they can definitely flesh it out. And I don't know who wants to be cast as the naked girl who's going to be running through town, sleeping and killing everybody. That's just the one part. I don't know if anybody's brave enough for that role, but some people step up every now and then. I don't know. It's an odd one. Have you ever come across anything where you read, you're like, man, I wish this would get adapted into something?
Not that I could think of. I don't know, man.
Well, because I remember when you and I talked about the Lazarus Heart, the one scene we mentioned when his head gets busted open and he puts on the bondage hood, but there's the other scene where he's essentially strung up and he's being like gutted, like all his individual organs are like in buckets full of blood and everything else. But when the healing factor kicks in, and it talks about how the organs slowly make their way back into the body, and the body starts to reform and reshape and heal itself. I remember reading that initially. I'm like, that would be an awesome scene to see visually. Just to see the body literally just put itself back together after it's been gutted and everything's laying in
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
For me, that just, when you read something, you can usually visualize what they're going for. I mean, you might not get exactly what the author is going for, but that scene in of itself, like I could see like the dingy, dirty place where the guy's tied up in, and just like everything's just gone to shit. And it talks about, because like, so for anybody who doesn't know, the part of the mythology of the crow is you have your healing power so long as you stay on the mission, and that mission is vengeance. Whoever killed you, or whoever took you away from your loved one, whoever caused your deaths, you're going to be able to go back and put the wrong things right. But if you deviate from that mission, if you decide you want to, just start living amongst the world again, even though you're dead, then the crow, or wherever that power emanates from, will start to leave you. Hence why when he gets blasted in the head and suddenly his skull's cracked open and everything else, he started deviating. In the original story of the crow, there's the skull cowboy that warns Erik Draven, you don't have that much time, you have to do what you have to do. And as soon as he starts deviating, that's where problems start happening. In the first movie, he succeeds. He finishes his mission. He takes out the gang members, T-Bird and the guys, and he put the wrong things right. But then, when his friend Sarah gets into trouble and Top Dollar kidnaps her, he's deviating from the mission. There's the cut scene that you can read about online. I think there's a few videos online where they did a Skull Cowboy character that stops Erik Draven before he goes into the church for the final battle with Top Dollar. And it warns him, like, you can't do this. But him being the good guy at this point can't let Sarah, come to harm. So as he runs in, that's when was it his, oh gosh, I just blanked on his name, the character that Tony Todd played,
Grange.
Thank you. Grange takes a shot at him and he's hit, and at first he's like, oh, I'm gonna heal, but then the pain sets in and he's not healing, just falls and goes, fuck.
Yeah.
Which is a great way to show, like, oh, he completed his mission. He avenged his fiance's death. But now because he wants to avenge or save his friend, the powers don't extend that far. So now you've got what you got, and that's it. You're not getting any more from us. You are dead. You understand that once you're done, you're going back in the grave. There's no happy ending. There's no living amongst the world anymore. You are a dead person. You're a corpse. You're just walking meat puppet. I think they referred to him as a few times. So be prepared to go back into the cold dirt. And just like, oh, geez. so bleak for a love story with such violence. But what would you expect? So that when it comes to Lazarus Heart, same thing. The power starts to leave him when he starts going off mission. And I haven't read enough other comic book iterations of the Crow to unfortunately see how far they've played with the mythology. I have to get back to some of the other ones because I didn't learn about the other books until much later. And at that point, they're kind of hard to find. I do have, and I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before, an ex-girlfriend from way back when actually bought me Crow number 1 and number 2 from Caliber Comics, the original printing of it. And the first appearance of the Crow in Caliber Comics Presents, and it was a book of short stories. I was lucky enough to get them as, I don't know if it was a birthday gift or it was like a Valentine gift, something like that. Might even been a Christmas gift. I don't know. It's been that long and the girl's out of my life. But if there's something that good that came out of that relationship, it was those books. Because I remember, I think I introduced her to the whole idea of the Crow. I was like, oh, it's a great story. It's a great movie. It's like one of my favorite. I read it like at least once a year. Not gonna lie, it makes me tear up every time I read it. Because especially the scenes where he's trying to hold on to the fleeting images of his fiance, and either the Crow or the Skull Cowboy shows up. He goes, nope, don't look at her. It's just gonna hurt more. She's like, fuck. Ah, man, it always gets to me. But like those, just the way that story is laid out, the fact that Obar puts the song lyrics from the different music groups, Joy Division and a few other ones, in between some of the chapters. I don't know if that was the way it was originally done in the single issues, but in the graphic novel, it's just collected and you have extras in the back, and his drawings are amazing. So seeing what he did with it and seeing where it came to, that's what I'm saying, where if they do the new one with Skarsgård, I would love at the very least to hear it did well at the box office, whether it's nostalgia or just the legacy of the original one with Brandon Lee, for that to parlay into a fat paycheck for James O'Barr. And hopefully he can just go buy a bunch of Tylenol and relax.
I think the man has more than earned it, especially for everything he's been through in his life.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm happy he's coming out to conventions more and more. One of my favorite things that you see online, and there's like little videos, I don't know if it's like on his Instagram or Facebook, but people will come to him with the Funko Pop version of the Erik Draven.
Yeah.
And it's a very sparse, simple looking figure. Most Funko Pops are. He'll actually pop the sucker out of the box, which I'm sure gives a lot of collectors like heart attacks. Like, oh no, the value. But he pops it out and he takes his Sharpie to it, and then he starts detailing it and making it more like his creation. And then when he's done, he puts it back in the box, closes it up, and then he does another little drawing of Draven on the plastic, the clear plastic on the front, and then he signs it. It's like, look, buddy, I don't care what you paid for it. It's worth a lot more now, all right? Just fucking take it home, put it in another like plastic case to keep it safe. Don't fuck with the Sharpie and you're good. But he sells his prints. He's out there. He still does amazing work. His handler is a little questionable at times. But yeah, that was my experience when I was trying to get an interview. An interview that I have said before, I will never release because I feel like a complete douchebag when I'm asking the questions. Here I'm meeting one of my heroes at New York Comic Con, and I'm trying to play it cool, but I was like, you know what? I could have done that much differently. I could have not said or acted weird ways. I said, screw it. I'll hold on to it. I still have the audio on a memory card somewhere put away. I still have the picture of him and I on my phone. I think it's on my Instagram too. But at the very least, I got a chance to meet him, and oh boy, do I just wish he got whatever he deserves out of this, because that story that he tells on the DVD commentary, or that interview, the one where he's in the basement, when you hear the heartbreaking story of how he essentially created the character, what inspired him to, and then furthermore to hear that he wrote the story, did not intend to release it until a friend of his took it from him, sent it off to a publisher, and they got back and says, we love it, we'll do it. He goes, excuse me?
Yep.
So he's like, shit, man, this potentially could not have happened if it weren't for that one friend. If the story's true, I don't know. I never went further into the other than that telling of it, but it's cool to know that we got that. And if somebody says, "Oh, I love your story. I think you should send it out," nah, it's kind of personal. You know, it's painful. I don't want to talk about it. Don't want to share it with everybody. It's shared with everybody. And then you compound that with the fact that he became really good friends with Brandon Lee and the production and everything else. They both really got along with one another. And then the tragedy happens with Brandon Lee. And that's like, oh, this story is born out of loss just to beget another loss. It's just like, fuck. Okay. But then he was less and less hands-on, I believe, for the subsequent films. And you can see that the film is just like slowly just tip downward. You're like, because what was it? City of Angels has its moments, has its things here and there. Thomas Jane is Nemo. Thoi Trang is the one killer of the gang. She played the Yellow Ranger in Power Rangers. Who was the guy in the tattoo parlor?
You're gonna have to be more specific there.
when Curve goes to interrogate him and puts the tattooing needle in his like up to his eye as they're trying to find out information on Ash.
That's Ian Jury of Ian Jury and the Blockheads.
Thank you. I always forget the name of the Blockheads. So, and Ian Jury just escaped me as well. But it like you've got like these little Easter eggs all throughout the film, and it's fun stuff. The ending was kind of weird, but whatever the case is. And then was it Crow Salvation after that?
Yes, that was the one that came out in I think like 99, 2000.
With Erik Mabius and Kirsten Dunst.
That sounds right. Yeah.
And then there was the other one with Boreanaz Furlong and
Tara Reid.
Tara Reid, that's right. Which I have never
Prayer.
seen. That's right. Everybody I've talked to says, I know you like The Crow, just don't. Just don't. It's not worth it.
That's what I was told. Like I remember talking to Holly about it and Jimmy about it, and they're like, just don't watch it. Just trust us both. Just don't watch it.
I might have to watch it eventually just to kill off the curiosity that I have in my head about it. Mm-hmm. I don't have any preconceived notion that it's going to be any good. It came and it went. The same girlfriend or ex-girlfriend at this point who bought me the issues of the book had a thing for Eddie Furlong.
Mm-hmm.
So when that movie came out, like, oh, he's going to play the Crow. I'm like, fuck him. Fuck him so hard. Like, yeah, sure, Terminator 2 was fun. Don't get me wrong. He was also in Detroit Rock City, the Kiss movie of 4 kids who want to go watch a Kiss concert in the 70s. Like, okay, like he's made it into things that I like. But when it came to the Crow, I was like, fuck, screw that. And then when I hear that the movie bombed, I'm like, fuck yes. But that was just me being vindictive.
There was a picture I saw floating around online recently of Edward Furlong and Robert Patrick having dinner together.
Yes,
I saw that, and yes, somebody had the caption. It's like it's good to see. It's good to see John Connor and the T-1000 cool with each other now.
Yeah, the guy who played the T-1000. I mean, yeah, he's older at this point, but he's he's up there in age. He doesn't look bad.
No, he looks like just like an old man who used to be in really good shape, and he's still like in reasonably good shape.
Yeah. Eddie Furlong, on the other hand, fuck, what happened to him?
Oh, he looks like 40 miles of rough road. I was like, and I think he's only in his mid 40s, like mid to late 40s, and he looks like hell.
Yeah. So I was like, oof, man, okay. Hollywood got to you, buddy. Shit.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have heard the recent interview that Cat Williams did on
no.
I believe the channel is Club Shay Shay. Shannon Sharp, I believe, is the guy who hosts it. Has like athletes and comedians and different people on. Cat Williams essentially just like unloaded on comedians in Hollywood and was just going off on a bunch of different things. But one of the things he said, he goes, when I went to Hollywood, one of the things that, my goals were, I was going to have a virgin butthole and I wasn't going to suck no penis. And I'm glad to say I've gotten this far and I've accomplished those two things. I hear that and I'm like, oh shit, wait, how many guys and girls in Hollywood have fucking fallen victim to, oh, fuck. Like all the backroom deals and everything else. Like you hear Weinstein and everything else that happened with him. Like, fuck. There's the one story of Terry Crews saying that he was sexually harassed at one point for a role. Other guys who, if so long as they were willing to quote unquote play ball, would also get certain movie roles. I'm like, oh man, how many of these guys got fucked? Oh, like you hear the ladies who unfortunately came out with Weinstein and were able to speak up, and hopefully they got some justice from everything that happened. But then you think about all the ones that you haven't heard about. You're just like, oh, fuck, man, Hollywood is a fucking dirty place. Jesus.
Well, I look at it this way: what's Hollywood and professional wrestling are both businesses just filled with absolute just scumbags, and that's just how it is.
Gatekeepers. Carny folk. You want to be in the business? Get undressed. Fuck. Yeah, no, when he said that, and especially the way he went off on a bunch of different people, but at the end of it, he goes, don't worry about it. Your show is going to be great. Because Shannon Sharp's like, fuck, man, Mom, I don't think I'm going to have a show after this. I think I'm going to be shut down. He goes, no. They're going to be coming back. Everybody's going to want to rebut what I said. Everybody's going to want to talk about all the truth that I spoke. He goes, but I didn't say anything that made me look better. I didn't say anything that elevate myself. I just told the truth. And that's what I want to make this place, a place of truth. I can speak the truth and let everybody know the truth. And then he said, early in the interview, he talks about 7 black comedians. He can name 7 instances in black comedians where they played ball, they sold their soul, whatever the case was, and they ended up with a light-skinned wife. And then somebody actually went online and took pictures about a bunch of comedians and their wives. And like, Cat Williams said 7, but we found 8 instances. Fuck, he was telling the truth. I was like, oh shit. Oh man. Apparently he has no love for the kings of comedy.
Really?
So, Cedric the Entertainer, Steve Harvey, he was going off and just telling. If you have a chance, I recommend it. Just for the audio, you don't have to watch the video. It's on YouTube, Club Shay Shay. It's about 2.5 hours, almost 3 hours, just to hear Cat Williams tell his story and how he got started the business, what he did, and how he was involved with different characters and was telling his truth about what happened, about stuff behind the scenes, because they especially talk about the Friday movies with Ice Cube.
Yeah,
they go into a bunch of that stuff as well. So I highly recommend it. I watched it the other day. I don't know if I'm going to watch more Club Shay Shay. I don't know if I'm the audience for that one, but that Cat Williams interview, you're like, where the fuck's Cat Williams been? And when he goes off and tells his stories, he's like, well, wow, okay. If he's telling the truth and this is all factual, then there's a lot of shit that was going on behind the scenes, and some of these guys are dirty as far as like deals and keeping people down and stopping people from breaking out, and just oof. Again, Hollywood and wrestling, all that, like there's some just dirty folk out there. So
Yep.
But I think we've run our course for tonight. How do you feel, sir?
I'm just very tired.
If I can find Girls from Image Comics and the Luna Brothers has been released in 4 graphic novels. If I can find one, I want to send one to you and get your take on it, because it's just a fun fucking story.
Cool. I'll do the best I can with it. I've never had an easy time with comic books for some odd reason.
I remember that. Yeah, you mentioned it a few times because you came across some stuff that you really liked when you went to the comic book store the few times that you went to the ones around here. But even the stuff that you bought and liked, you're like, yeah.
Well, I don't know what it is. There's something about just the format of a comic book that I don't want it to be a comic book. I want it to be a book. Yeah, I mean, like even stuff I have and I own and I like, for example, Lock and Key. I tried to reread that about 2 years ago, and I stopped. And it's 7 or 8 graphic novels. I can't remember how many. I got halfway through the second one, and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's almost uncomfortable.
I got you.
It's Yeah, so that's why I don't even bother with a lot of comics. I'm sure there's stuff out there because there's enough like weird oddball stuff out there and horror stuff and other like weird shit that I'd probably find stuff I'm into. But I've always lived the mentality it's like, yeah, it's probably not going to work out, so why bother?
Yeah. Again, sometimes, sometimes it clicks with you, sometimes it doesn't, unfortunately. I know for a while I stopped reading books, comic books for a long time. And then somebody had brought it was an Image comic book called Echo. And it was this like weird anime styled sci-fi story.
Hmm.
And the way I read it and the way it was laid out, I could almost see the images move in my head.
Hmm.
And it hooked me once again. And from that point on, I never gave up comic books again. I just kept reading. Granted, I don't collect as much as I used to in the day, but when I get a chance, thanks to streaming, or not streaming, but apps or just, online comics, I'll try to read anything I can. I go to a lot of older stuff. I actually read the old Transformers run from the 80s. I'm rereading the G.I. Joe run from Marvel and just try to find like old stuff that slipped through the gaps with me. I read Swamp Thing
Uh-huh.
off of Comixology, the Alan Moore stuff, which is, if you want horror comic, Swamp Thing's there. It's fucking trippy. That was
Oh
a good
wow.
one.
Okay.
So, but then it's Alan Moore. So,
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. I liked it and enjoyed it. It's his material. So, but all right, I'm not gonna keep this going anymore. I think we filled out for tonight. I'm sure we can find other nights to talk about some more fantastic stories and properties who maybe one day will get adapted into a story for TV or movies. So, if you made it this far, thank you for listening. My name is Erik Hernandez,
I'm Doug.
and we are the Rabblecast.